The sky above, once a peaceful blue promising a smooth journey, had suddenly transformed into a menacing canvas. The engine sounds, normally a gentle hum, now roared erratically, tearing through the cabin's silence. Less than an hour after departing Paris, a typical commercial flight plunged into a nightmare. Panicked screams erupted, mixing with the sharp clang of metal, and rough commands barked in accented French. Ibrahim Traore, concealed among the anonymous passengers, felt the shock pierce through him. The sudden, brutal event hit hard, but deeper still came a chilling recognition of its origins. He watched the men taking control of the plane, their faces taut, a flicker of desperation in their eyes, yet holding a burning conviction that felt like steel. This wasn't the chaotic energy of random criminals. It was driven by something calculated, something steeped in ideology. Hours bled into an agonizing eternity. The plane, veering sharply off course, circled somewhere over Mali. The pilot, voice strained with fear, kept the aircraft aloft, buying time for frantic negotiations unfolding miles below. Traoré watched his fellow passengers. The elderly Burkina woman beside him, hands clasped tight, trembling uncontrollably. The young mother whispering reassurances he couldn't hear, trying to shield her children a few rows ahead, the tight-faced businessmen across the aisle, rigid with fear. The air was thick with palpable dread, the metallic tang of terror, and the scent of cold sweat. "Don't worry, Mama," Traoré murmured softly to the woman next to him, his voice a low, steady anchor in the storm of fear. "Hold on. Everything will be all right." She turned tear-filled eyes towards him, a flicker of desperate hope in their depths. Are you Burkina, my son?" she whispered, her voice thin. "Yes, Mama. Yes," he confirmed, offering a gentle, reassuring look. "We will all see home again. Please, just stay calm." A heated, guttural exchange erupted between two hijackers near the cockpit. Something was shifting, the tension spiking. Traoré saw Hakim gesticulating wildly, his face contorted. Suddenly, Ahmad roughly grabbed a middle-aged French passenger from his seat. "They aren't taking us seriously! Do you hear?" Ahmad roared, dragging the man forward, his voice hoarse with frustration. "Maybe a demonstration. Maybe that will make them listen." It was the tipping point. Traoré's mind raced. Reveal himself? Potentially save lives right now, but throw his nation into an unprecedented international crisis. Or remain hidden, gamble on an external resolution that might not come, or might come too late? His decision was instantaneous, a surge of quiet resolve. He stood up. "Stop!" His voice cut through the panic, firm, surprisingly calm against the chaos. "Hold on! Hasty actions! They only make everything worse! For everyone!" Ahmad froze, turning, gun now leveled at Traoré, his eyes wide with surprise and rage. Who are you to speak? Sit down." "Just a passenger," Traoré said, raising his hands slightly, his gaze steady. "But I've seen things. Violence now. It closes doors. It makes your demands impossible." Yusuf, the leader, approached, his eyes narrowed, assessing the unexpected defiance. Hakim and Jamil watched, wary. "Who are you?" Yusuf demanded, suspicion thick in his voice. "Why so calm?" I've been in situations like this," Traoré stated truthfully, choosing his words carefully. "Negotiations. I know how they work. Maybe I can help. Bridge the gap." Yusuf hesitated, a flicker of calculation replacing the anger. He glanced back at Hakim and Jamil, a brief, intense exchange of glances, urgent whispers in Arabic and French passing between them. Hakim looked uncertain. Jamil seemed to defer to Yusuf. Finally, Yusuf nodded, a grudging acceptance. "All right, diplomat. Let's see. Come here, to the cockpit." Traoré walked forward with measured steps, his gaze steady, acknowledging the silent, anxious stares of the passengers he passed. He saw fear, yes, but also a flicker of bewildered hope. The elderly woman whispered again, her voice barely audible. "May God go with you, my son." Inside the cramped cockpit, the air was thick with the smell of sweat and ozone. The pilots sat rigid, their faces pale and strained, hands white-knuckled on the controls. One hijacker, Ahmad, monitored the crackling radio. "Who is this?" The voice on the radio, the French negotiator, sounded sharp, strained, wary. "Another voice? Is this a trick? Are you using a hostage?" "No," Traoré said, stepping into the limited space. "I am a passenger. My only concern is getting everyone home safely. A peaceful end." He needed to understand their demands clearly. Strip away the rhetoric. "First, what exactly do you want? The prisoners? And the money?" "Yes," Yusuf affirmed, his voice regaining some of its earlier fire. "Our brothers, in La Santé. We want them out." "Your brothers?" Traoré probed gently, inviting him to elaborate, to reveal the human element behind the demand. "Malik al-Zaman, Riyad Hamza, Omar Ben Ali," Yusuf listed, the names spoken with fierce loyalty. "They are not criminals. They fought for our land, for the Tuareg, for Mali, and France. France trapped them." His voice rose, bitterness palpable. Traoré recognized the names, figures central to recent conflicts, accused of terrorism by some, seen as freedom fighters by others. "I see. And the money?" "For the cause," Yusuf stated, defiant. "To continue the fight until France's boot is off our necks, off Africa's neck." Hakim and Jamil muttered in agreement. Traoré understood. Deeply. The anti-colonial fire, the sense of historical injustice, it was a powerful current he himself navigated, though his methods were negotiation and political will, not violence. "And your names?" he asked, making another small connection. "I am Yusuf. That's Hakim, Jamil, and Ahmad." The others gave curt, suspicious nods. "Yusuf," Traoré began, his tone calm, pragmatic, "I can try to help, but have you thought this through? Logistically, governments, they don't like to look weak. Releasing prisoners like that, it's complicated." "We are not weak," Yusuf retorted, anger flashing. "We are doing what must be done to take back what is ours." "I hear you," Traoré said, steady. "The struggle is real. But have you looked at other ways? Legal appeals? International courts? Pressure?" "We tried. For years." Yusuf's voice was raw with past frustrations. 7 years they sat in prison. Nothing happened. We had to act." Hakim slammed a hand lightly against a console in frustration. Traoré was probing, looking for the cracks in their plan, the points of vulnerability driven by their desperation. Could he guide them towards a less destructive path? If your demands were met," Traoré pressed, "what then? How would you get away?" Yusuf, Hakim, and Jamil exchanged uncertain glances, the first real sign of unpreparedness. "Land in Mali," Yusuf admitted, hesitant. "Cross the border. Disappear." "They will be waiting," Traoré stated, the truth blunt and unavoidable. "Special forces. The moment you touch down, they will be there." He saw the fear bloom in Yusuf's eyes, the rapid, anxious glances between the three hijackers. "But maybe there's another way, a safer path, for you." He lowered his voice. "I can mediate, truly. We could push the prisoner's case, elevate it, use this situation to force international attention, yes, but without risking everyone's lives on the ground." "It's too late," Yusuf said, shaking his head, a flicker of despair. We've done this now. We committed." "There is always a path back," Traoré countered gently, offering a lifeline. "A less final path. But first, the passengers. We must ensure their safety. That's the priority now. The radio crackled. The French negotiator again. Yusuf, an update. Your demands are being reviewed. A commission will be formed. Steps to improve the prisoners' conditions? Yes, that is possible. But full release now? It is not. Not yet. The voice sounded weary, stressed, but firm on that point. Yusuf looked at Traoré, his face a mask of warring emotions, frustration, confusion, waning defiance. What do I do? This is a concrete step, Traoré said, seizing on the small victory. A commission, improved conditions, its movement. Now, let's negotiate the terms for a safe landing. For everyone. And us? Yusuf asked, his voice quiet, fear creeping in. What happens to us? Hakim and Jamil leaned closer, listening intently, their own fear visible. Traoré realized the depth of their lack of planning for the aftermath. Idealists caught in a corner. If you end this peacefully now, Traoré said, looking him in the eye, surrender peacefully. It will make a difference. In court. No physical harm to passengers. That matters. It shows restraint. Purpose, maybe, but not malice towards the innocent. Yusuf and his men conferred amongst themselves one last time, a tight, tense huddle near the cockpit door. Their whispers were urgent, fragmented. Defeat warred with fear. Hope for a softer outcome clashed with the stark reality of their position. Finally, Yusuf turned back, a deep weariness etched on his face. Okay, he said into the radio, his voice low. The commission, the conditions. You promised. Now, a safe landing. For us. You can land at Niamey Airport, the negotiator replied quickly, palpable relief in his tone. The Nigerian authorities will guarantee your safety upon surrender. Wait, Traoré interjected, a sharp warning. Niamey, that still means special forces swarming the plane the moment you land. It's high risk. For you. Then, what? Yusuf asked, turning to Traoré again, desperate for an alternative. Land in Ouagadougou, Traoré proposed, offering the hand-picked solution. Here, in Burkina Faso, negotiate, or surrender, here. It's more neutral ground, where I can ensure arrangements are honored. Yusuf's brow furrowed, a flicker of the old suspicion returning. Burkina Faso? But France? Traoré smiled, a small, confident, knowing smile. Not anymore. Burkina Faso stands on its own feet now, charting its own course. French influence, that is changing, rapidly. The unspoken assertion of his own authority and the nation's new direction was clear. As they began their descent towards Ouagadougou, the tension remained, a humming energy in the cabin. Traoré prepared for the final act. Yusuf, he said, his voice quiet but firm, when we land, it will be over. You will be surrounded. Lay down your weapons. Walk out peacefully. My word. Your safety is guaranteed. A fair process. They will prison us, Yusuf stated flatly, the reality unavoidable. Yes, Traoré conceded gently. That is the consequence. But you will live, and you will have the chance to speak, to explain your cause legally, to advocate for your brothers in a different way. After a long, tense silence, broken only by the whine of the landing gear extending, Yusuf finally nodded, a profound, heavy weariness settling over him. Okay, he said softly. Let's land. Release the hostages. The plane touched down smoothly at Ouagadougou Airport, the familiar bump of the wheels on asphalt a sudden, jarring return to reality. Special forces were visible, positioned strategically, grimly silent, but held back. First, the children and elderly disembarked, their faces a mix of overwhelming relief and lingering shock, guided by the calm presence of emergency responders. Then, the remaining passengers filed out, hurried steps echoing the desire to escape the nightmare. "Now I must leave," Traoré said to Yusuf, who stood watching from the cockpit entrance, a lost look in his eyes. "Why?" Yusuf asked, confused, grasping for the connection that had formed in the air. "How can you help us now?" It was time. The air on the tarmac felt warm and real. Traoré removed his sunglasses and the simple cap he'd worn for disguise. His face, now fully visible, was instantly, undeniably recognizable. "Because," he said, his voice clear and strong, carrying the weight of his office, of his nation, "I am Ibrahim Traore, President of Burkina Faso." Yusuf's face drained of color, shock giving way to utter disbelief, then dawning horror as the full, impossible reality crashed down on him. Hakim and Jamil gasped behind him, stumbling back slightly. "Impossible," Yusuf whispered, the word a choked sound of utter defeat. "It is true," Traoré said calmly, meeting Yusuf's stunned gaze. "And I will help you. Surrender peacefully as you agreed, and I guarantee your safety. You will receive a fair trial here, in Burkina Faso. My word is my bond." Yusuf's hand twitched, hovering near his weapon, a last, desperate, wild thought flashing. Maybe we keep you. The most valuable hostage." "You could," Traoré agreed, his gaze unwavering, showing no fear, only resolute calm. "But think. Special forces are outside waiting on my signal. Harm me, and there is no trial, no voice for your cause, no path back. Only an end. Here and now." The moment stretched, heavy with the weight of their choices, the ultimate test of the fragile trust built over hours of tense negotiation. Finally, slowly, the defiance draining from his eyes, replaced by resignation and fear, Yusuf lowered his gun. Hakim and Jamil followed suit, their shoulders slumping in defeat. What do you want us to do?" Yusuf asked, his voice thin, the fight finally gone. "Lay down your weapons," Traoré instructed gently. "Step out of the plane with me, peacefully. It's over." Reluctantly, Yusuf and his companions complied, placing their weapons on the cockpit floor. Ibrahim Traore led the way down the aircraft stairs onto the tarmac, the three former hijackers following behind him into the waiting, silent formation of the authorities. On the tarmac, the Special Forces commander stared, stunned into momentary silence, as his president emerged from the hijacked plane, walking calmly, flanked by the men who had seized it. "Sir? Mr. President? You were on the plane?" "Yes, Colonel," Traoré replied, his voice calm and authoritative, the air of command fully returned. "And these men have surrendered peacefully. I have guaranteed their safety. Ensure they are taken into custody, treated humanely, and that my word regarding a fair trial is upheld." Hours later, at the presidential palace, Traoré addressed the world press, the incident already headline news globally. Today, he stated, his gaze steady and resolute, reflecting the lessons learned. We faced a moment of crisis born from desperation and deeply held grievances. These young men chose a path of error, but in the end, dialogue, not bloodshed, prevailed. Asked why he hadn't revealed his identity sooner, Traoré replied, his voice reflecting the heavy responsibility. "My primary duty was the safety of all on board. Revealing myself prematurely could have turned a hostage situation into an international confrontation of the gravest magnitude, with unpredictable and potentially tragic results. My objective was to de-escalate, to build a bridge through communication where force would likely have led to loss of life, We prioritized preserving every single life. A journalist, eyes wide, asked what the experience had taught him about leadership. Traoré paused, the weight of the past hours visible for a fleeting moment. Violence. It offers no lasting solution, only more pain. True strength isn't found in decree or command alone, he said, his gaze sweeping over the assembled journalists, the cameras, the symbols of global attention. It is found in empathy, in understanding the frustrations that drive men to such desperate acts, and most importantly, he concluded, his voice firm, echoing the quiet courage he had displayed. True leadership is never being afraid to walk among your people, to share their risks, their fears, and to earn their trust not from a distance, but by standing with them, even in the most dangerous of moments. As the press conference concluded, the extraordinary story of Ibrahim Traoré's quiet courage and unconventional leadership resonated across the globe. A terrifying crisis had been transformed not just into a successful rescue, but into a profound living lesson in humanity, strategy, and governance on the global stage. And Burkina Faso, through its president's actions, once again stood as a testament to Africa's resilience, its complex struggles, and the quiet, powerful resolve of its leaders to forge paths towards peace and self-determination.